Good afternoon, brothers. We have somebody here who I had on my podcast, and a few of you have heard this podcast and told me that it brought tremendous value. I've actually referenced Sasha multiple times now because when I interviewed her on the podcast, I learned so much, and I keep getting reminded of it because Nick and his team in Greece cut it up into reels. So every time I see it, that they post one for me, I go, "Oh yeah, she said that. That was brilliant." So I'm not going to read the standard because she could tell you all about herself. I'm not going to read the standard and here's what she's accomplished and here's what she's done. But this very intelligent lady works with men on creating better relationships. And what we're going to talk about today is avoiding divorce. And she said some things on that podcast that I absolutely loved. And there's someone here who, doing the 31 days, just of the few guys who are here right now, told me that he started doing these things and made a difference in his relationship. And it was leading and being the man and being decisive. And you know who you are, who told us all that. And it changed your relationship. And those are the types of things that I heard a lot in that hour or so podcast that I did with Sasha. So I said, you please have to come present to my men. And that's why she's here. Sasha, thanks for being here all the way from Australia.
Thanks, Joel, for having me. Yes, I flew in on my private jet to come see you. So, yeah, really excited to be sharing this with you because usually I'm just coaching clients one-to-one or I'm just talking at the screen, putting content on social media. So, my intention here today is just really help the guys either here live or watching this to actually make a change in your relationship, get more of what you want, or actually help you rather than fill you up with too much content. But in saying that, I have lots and lots of content. So the topic that I'm going to be speaking on today is avoiding divorce and being the man she desires. This is what every man needs to understand about his woman and lead her to be a better wife. And yes, you can lead her to be a better wife, and it's what she desires as well. Okay, so a little bit of background about me. I'll introduce myself if you haven't watched my contents. My name's Sasha Fedorovsky. I'm a men's relationship and intimacy coach. I'm the creator of the Mind Heart Method, which is the leading program for men to help them save their marriage in 90 days or less. And yes, sometimes it takes even less than 90 days, believe it or not. So, my background, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist. I actually had a big background in business, working in very male-dominated industries. So I worked with a lot of men, my bosses, my clients, my colleagues. So I really got to see things that, not a lot of women get to see, and get to find out. So this was sort of my initiation. Later on, I developed my coaching career working in a men's health clinic with specialist doctors, psychologists, and researchers in the space. This really helped me to tie the dots in what was really going on for men and the difference between men and women, and how a man's biology, how his nervous system, how his health really link back to his relationship with his woman. So, a few insights that I got that led me to create the Mind Heart Method and really cut the fat of all, the psychology, the doctors, the research, and kind of bypass the politics and the red tape and create something that worked. So, initially, I saw the first thing was leadership. Men were leaving their leadership qualities back at work and taking a passive backseat role at home. This is managers, CEOs, business owners. They were really the man at work. They were leading at work. They were using all the principles, all the coaching, all the leadership stuff, and they were getting really great results at work. However, for some reason, they weren't applying the same concepts at home and really taking a passive role. The second one was logic. Men were trying to apply the same problem-solving logic that they used at work that was very successful there to their relationships with their wife. However, that was really causing them to fail, right? And it was actually causing them a lot of stress. And then it was circling back into their work life because actually your relationship with your wife and that intangible energy that you get, that's really your fuel to what you create at work financially and out in the world. And then the final insight that I got that really kind of gave me that light bulb moment was the nervous system and stress, right? So uh, our logic is just our 5%, and that's really what you're using 80% of the time at work. But actually, what I realized it was our nervous system, our unconscious mind, that was really regulating our relationships and our lives. So it made even less sense to apply the logic that men were using at work to solve their relationship problems. The problem was actually much deeper. It was below the surface. It was in the unconscious. It was in the body, in the nervous system. And so a deeper approach really needed to be applied. And this is what led me to create the Mind Heart method that really helps practical men to understand a very unpractical, a very illogical problem, which is women and relationships. And that's an emotional problem. So our nervous system is regulated by our emotions, and this is what creates hormones. And essentially, men and women are not really communicating through words or logic, they're actually communicating through hormones. Okay, so before I get into more content or the presentation, I just wanted to ask you a few questions, whether you're here or even, if you're watching this later. What are the problems that you're experiencing in your relationship? And what do you want more of in your relationship? Because I want to tailor this content to you. And I want to give you a few questions to ask yourself throughout the presentation, so it really gives you those light bulb moments.
You want guys to answer these here?
Yeah. So let me know so that I can sort of talk to you
Yeah. So guys,
throughout the
if you
presentation.
so if you have one of these questions, you can be asking for a friend. It's fine. What do you
Yeah.
got? Everybody's got a perfect relationship, no problems.
No problems. I have a question. I'm sorry I'm not on camera. I'm driving and I might have to jump out a little bit before the call ends because I'm going to a meeting. But my wife and I, we have a really good relationship. We're expecting our first kid. So I know a lot is going to change. So if you can focus right, like starting a family, um something on that end.
That's a great one.
That's a
And
great one.
I'll answer, I'll say one that I know. I don't know too many men who will answer differently, but a lot of men want more intimacy and more sex in their relationship. So before anyone worries about having to say that one, I'll say it. Who else has something? Mike Tucker, you don't want anything else out of your relationship? You don't have any problems?
I'll go. Hi, nice to meet you. This is Miguel.
I'm,
I sometimes I get a lot of judgment because I expect maybe more leadership or more aggressiveness from my wife outside of home, especially in business, on or making decisions about our future as a family. So I do understand me as the male at the home. I have to be the leader, but sometimes I expect more, and I feel a lot of judgment. So sometimes I get into the debate if this is the right feeling or the wrong feeling, and then how to enter into the conversation where you are inviting into what you expect is the right thing, without creating a conflict or a misjudgment.
Yeah, good question. So that question is going to be answered for you through the presentation. So mostly men, when they come to me, they have two questions. Usually it's just one: how do I get more intimacy and connection in my relationship, particularly if, there hasn't been intimacy in years, or they're on the brink of divorce. The other one is about what are the roles? What should my expectations be? Because you'd be surprised, but most people don't know what is going on inside someone's relationship, and particularly with men. Men don't communicate, right? So this takes a lot of courage, even to be watching this presentation, to asking questions, and to be asking yourself those questions, because as a man, your biology is designed to suppress and push down any problem you can't solve. Right? This is back when you were caveman, hunters and gatherers. You had to go out and you had to hunt, kill the animal. You had to suppress your fear in order to get the job done. So it's likely that you may actually be suppressing a lot of the fears, unknowns, or avoiding things that you can't solve in your relationship. This is why what often happens is women are thinking and planning divorce for about 10 years before it happens. Okay, maybe now it's shorter, maybe it's 2. And a man will experience divorce shock or breakup shock when it happens. He may think things are fine initially until he further self-reflects, because that's the biology, especially now with our busy world. So I really want you to ask yourself these questions. How is the connection in my relationship? Okay, how does it feel? Is it deep? Is it connected? How does the physical connection? How is the emotional connection? What is an emotional connection? Okay, is my wife happy and relaxed? How happy and relaxed is she? Give it a number. How respected do I feel by her? Give that a number as well. Okay, and why these 2 questions aren't the other way around is because your wife doesn't want to feel respected by you. She wants to feel cherished by you. And you don't need to feel happy in the relationship, right? Men don't actually get this sort of happiness that most people talk about. You'll get a sense of purpose and you will feel happiness. Your male hormones will be the highest when she is looking up to you. Not only her, but other people, men, but essentially when your wife is looking up to you. So we'll get into that into the presentation, but just start asking yourself these questions and applying this content to your personal situation. And if we have time, we can do some coaching at the end. Okay, so let's move forward. So in business, you need to understand your client. As a business owner, you need to understand your employee. You need to understand their psychology, what motivates them, so that you can get the best return on investment. Okay, the same with your wife or a woman. You must understand her psychology. And male and female psychology is very different. Our bodies are different, our biology is different, and most men just assume that that a woman is the same as him, just maybe a little bit prettier, but that is not the case. And female psychology is really the answer why you're not getting the response you want from her. Okay, it's not because the relationship is broken, it's just because you haven't figured her out. Just like a new market that you're approaching in business, this is the same with your woman. Okay, there is a logical method, even though your client avatar is not particularly logical. So a few fun psychological facts about women. Women never say what they mean, okay? In particular, in a relationship with you, particularly your wife. Why? Well, women have had generations of social conditioning. She's always had to be the good girl. She'd had to keep her mouth shut in order for the man not to raise his hand, right? It's only now we're living in a generation where there's more safety for women, where a woman can say what she means. So over time, women have, sort of this unhealthy feminine. They have discovered manipulation, and a woman in her unhealthy energy will manipulate, whether this is conscious or not. So on some level, a woman can't tell you what she means because of this second point, that women are designed to submit to a man. Okay, so when you're around somebody that you are designed to incline to submit, in a way, you're trying to say things that are pleasing to him on some level. Okay. The other thing about women are very intuitive, so they get feelings. This has sort of been shunned out by our society because we live in a masculine world. We're no longer in this, masculine and feminine energy like many ancient tribes. Particularly in Australia, we've got Aboriginal culture. They've got something called the dream time. This is really the invisible. Okay, so women are much more in tune to the invisible, and they can't always communicate in a logical way what they're feeling to a man. Okay, so the communication is sort of lost down the line. The next part, they're designed to submit to a man. So this is natural in our biology because when we're living in the wild, there has to be a leader. We have to submit to a leader for safety. It's our design. It's not a theory. It's our biology. Even myself, I know these ideas. I know how this works. I know the system. it still happens when I'm in the presence of a man and I'm outside of my coaching, teaching theme. It's just something that we do unconsciously. However, a woman is not designed to comply. So this doesn't mean your wife should do what you say. She will only submit if she feels called to, if you're a leader that she chooses to follow. Okay. So the next one, she's always testing you for strength and safety. This is something you may experience, you may find it annoying, but from the moment that you approach her in a bar or on the streets, she's going to test you until the day that you die. Okay, no matter if you've been married for decades, she's always testing, because essentially, in a way, she's living with somebody who is dangerous, and she needs to actually feel your danger. She needs to know that you're strong, but that you're also safe, that she can be safe with you. Okay. And then she needs to experience the emotional roller coaster with you, or she'll create one. So I don't know if you've experienced this in your relationship, where she takes you on the emotional roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows. It almost seems out of nowhere. Why is she making a big deal out of nothing? Women need emotions. Women need to feel. And if she doesn't get feeling from you, she will create it. So I always tell my clients, you must create the simulation for her. You must simulate the roller coaster ride so that you're leading it, so that the ride isn't taking you for a spin. So let me know if you can relate to this, if it's making sense for you. So the next part of female psychology is how her attraction works. So in order to be attracted to you, to give into intimacy, to be open to you, to receive you, she needs to respect you. Okay, this means that she actually looks upwards to you. It doesn't mean that she, of course, she can't look down to you, and she can't even look level to you. So this idea of a partnership with two equals is great for a business relationship, but it's not really great for attraction, because she actually needs to look towards you. It's like those old school movies where the hero's going towards a goal and the woman's looking towards him. Women want intimacy just as much as men, believe it or not. And actually, if you look at biology, women are more capable of longer and more frequent intimacy, going later into their lives, right? So female biology is actually insatiable, right? So I've got a reel. It went viral. It's one of my most viral reels. It got over 1 million views. And it's the lie that women tell you. And the lie is that she's too tired. Okay, so a woman is never too tired. It's just that she's got resistance. A woman has much more resistance to physical intimacy than you. Okay, this is societal conditioning. This is motherhood. This is emotions that she hasn't processed. And it's really your role as the man to lead her into intimacy. Okay, and she will feel most attracted to you when you are in the firm father role, and she's least attracted to you when she's mothering or leading you. Okay, and this can sort of become the norm in a lot of relationships down the line, where your wife is mothering you. You're one of the kids, right? And it will feel, sometimes it can feel comfortable, sometimes it can feel good, it can feel loving, but there will be this element of feeling a bit repulsed, right? This is when your wife is nagging you, or when she feels like she has to, let you know or follow up things, right? When you're not the leader, she will feel that element of repulsion, and this will take away the attraction. And I know it sounds a little bit strange, but the ideal role for attraction is when you're in that firm, fathering, loving role. Okay, the reason for this right now is because throughout history, we've had a lot of absent men, and particularly when it comes to this father-daughter relationship, there's a gap. Okay, and we're always seeking out in our intimate partner on some level what we didn't fulfill with our parents. Okay, that missing part with our parents, right? So if you can fulfill that role for a woman, if you want to think about the ideal loving, firm father, there's discipline, right? There's love, there's care, there's strength. You're leading, you're teaching her something. That ideal role, you want to step into that energy with your wife, and that's what's going to create the most attraction. let me know if this sounds a bit strange to you, if it's making sense for what you've experienced. Just give me a nod or let me know how that's resonating so far.
Does anybody find that odd? So it's not just daddy issues, but that's part of it, right? A girl who never had that looks for that. Is that right, Sasha?
Yeah, but it's actually all women on some level, because on some elements, everybody hasn't had that perfect parent, and it's kind of the original leader, the original hierarchy.
Okay.
Okay, so we will move on. All right, so masculine and feminine energy, right? So polarity, this is what's needed to create attraction and connection in your relationship. So if you're on the brink of divorce, couples therapy isn't going to help you. If you've got a lot of tension, if there hasn't been intimacy in years, and the two of you can't go for dinner and enjoy each other or sit and have a conversation without having tension or a fight, then couples therapy, talking about it, isn't going to work. What needs to happen first, we need to create attraction, that desire to come together and understand each other's differences, right? And that's what polarity is. It's enhancing the masculine energy, enhancing the feminine energy. Okay, so if your relationship is in disconnect, it's not broken, it's out of balance, the energy is out of balance, the structure's off, and we need to create balance. This is what's going to create a happy relationship. So what is the perfect balance? It's not 50% masculine, 50% feminine. Okay, that's what's not working right now. So the ideal energy balance, the man is, even more so than these figures, the man is probably towards 70, 80% in his masculine and say 20, 30% in his feminine, right? So masculine energy is leading, directing, logic, strength, structure. Okay, feminine energy is flow, it's creativity, intuition, feelings, things like that, right? The man can't be 100% in his masculine, and there are men like this, but often relationships with women don't work, because if you think of a yin and yang sign, when they connect, you need to have the points of connection, right? Also, if a man is fully masculine, it's like going to the gym every single day and never stretching or doing recovery. Eventually your muscles will get sore, something will break, and then you won't be able to go to the gym again, right? You need that bit of fluidity. And so the woman is the opposite. When you come together, if you're 70% masculine, she's 70% in her feminine, and she's got that 30% masculine. Because women need this now, right? To go to work, to raise children, they need to have a little bit of that masculine energy. But it's how you come together when you're together. So you need to amp up. It's like when couples dress up to have sex. It creates a little bit more stimulation. You need to be dressing up in your relationship. You can't just be like yourself the way you are at home with your parents when you're a child, right? A relationship, if you want to hold that structure, that energy, and be on the razor's edge, in a sense, you always got to be on, right? So you're putting on your masculine costume when you come home, right? This may be James Bond for you. It may be another character where you feel he's really masculine. I want to step into that energy. You step into that frame, and this will polarize her into a more softer, feminine frame. Okay, so what this looks like, the ideal relationship is, it's the boss and the secretary. This is why so many affairs happen in this role, or the manager and the artist, right? And, obviously you're the boss or you're the manager and she's the secretary or the artist. These roles are very complementary. They're very different, and they work very, very well together. So on the other side of things, when you don't have a polarized relationship between masculine and feminine, and you don't have the attraction to come together, you have depolarized relationships. And this is the majority of relationships today. And I'll start with the most common one. This is roommates. I've got a little picture on the side. It looks like two colleagues talking. You can see that there's space. The woman is closed off. There's no intimacy in these relationships. So this is when it's like 50-50 masculine, feminine energy. The couples are really similar. It's literally the idea of partners, right? Or colleagues. Oftentimes they end up sleeping in separate rooms. So they're literally roommates, and there's very little desire or attraction to come together. However, these are the relationships that look the best from the outside. They can last many, many years because they uphold the business of family, because in a sense they're cohesive. There's not a lot of chaos in this relationship, but also then you lose the passion and the attraction. And I want you just to have a think about, does this resonate? Can you relate to that? Have you been in this relationship? Were your parents in this type of relationship? The next one is superficial roles. Okay, it's sort of the male-female symbol. So on the outside, this looks like a polarized relationship where a man's in his masculine, the woman is submitting, she's in her feminine. It looks like that sort of typical 1950s relationship, right? So what this actually is, so the man looks dominant, right? He looks like the leader, but the woman, she's not in her feminine because she's being a doormat. She's not sharing her needs, she's not sharing her feelings. And eventually the man leads in a selfish way. He's not really looking after her true needs. And what happens is, this is obviously there's a level of abuse that could occur here. Needs are not getting met, but also the man loses attraction for this type of woman when she's being a doormat, right? So you never want your wife to comply. You only want her to submit if it feels true to her heart. Because if she doesn't share her feelings with you, if she just complies, you're not going to feel attraction to her, because attraction is actually felt through hormones, right? Which is regulated by feelings. So if she's suppressing those feelings, there's no energy, there's no oxytocin. And this is what men really need and, can't really create on their own. This is what they need from women. The next one is inverted polarity. So you can see this couple here. The woman is comforting the man. She's leaning in towards the man. This is when the woman is more so in her masculine. She may be the breadwinner, kind of like this boss babe, or kind of just wears the pants in the household. Maybe he looks like the leader on the outside, but actually he's just very passive in the relationship. Usually the woman doesn't want to give into intimacy at this stage because she's in the mothering role, and this repels sexual attraction. Okay, and this guy's life is maybe comfortable because the woman's doing everything, she's meeting his needs, but she's also getting very angry, frustrated. So there's a level of this quiet desperation or stress that's constantly there. And then finally, the last one is enemies. So you can sort of see these two little kids, they're playing, but they're also fighting. Enemies actually has a lot of passion, right? So the woman is feminine, the man is masculine, but he's not leading from integrity, or he's not leading well. But in this case, the woman isn't being a doormat, like the superficial roles where she's suppressing her needs. She's fighting him. She's stepping up to lead, and it's kind of like a clash of two masculine energies. So there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of make-up sex, but eventually this relationship can't last, okay? And it's hard for it to sustain the business of family because there's too much chaos, right? So this is the least common one. But just notice if any of these relationships resonates, and how the boss secretary role or the artist manager just feels better. So what's the solution, right? Why does a man need to lead? Well, essentially, a great husband is the same thing as a great leader. That's what a husband is. He's a great leader. It's the same key characteristics, right? The first one starts with the mind. So as a great leader, you have your own mind, you have your own thoughts, you think for yourself. You're not a people pleaser, you're not a sheep, you have vision, you have direction. This is what gives you great leadership. You have a vision for your family, for your wife. You know where you're going, you have a plan. But this on its own doesn't make a great leader, because this can actually make a really great dictator. We've had a lot of great leaders in a sense with these skills, but they've created chaos in the world, right? Some of, the worst scenarios is in human history. So a great leader always needs to have heart. Okay, this is the next level. He needs to care deeply about the people he's leading. It needs to come from love and a place of service, verse from his own needs, right? This is going into narcissism. So when a man is only run by his mind, he can go into narcissism, selfishness, or create things that may be brilliant but cause destruction. whether in the world or within his relationship. So heart is essential. Okay, so you must care deeply about your wife in order to make the hard decisions, in order to not be liked, because you're doing it from a place of love and service. And then finally, a man has to be connected to his spine, right? This is having a backbone, right? And the mind and the heart won't function without a backbone, because any great leader in history or in a relationship comes up against difficulties. So this is when strength and courage and firmness is needed. And this is what your wife is looking for in a great leader, because remember, she's looking for strength and safety all the time. So if you're just giving into wife-pleasing behavior, you're just doing everything that she wants because you want to avoid conflict, you don't want her to be upset or angry, then you're acting in a way that doesn't have spine. Right? And what's going to happen is she's not going to trust your leadership, because women want that firm fatherly love, right? And that's discipline. And this is what I do when I work with my clients. This is what we bring together. We get your mind online so you have clear thinking. A lot of this revolves around letting go of stress. You can't learn any of these techniques that I'm teaching you if your mind is full of stress, if your nervous system is signaling fear. Okay, so that's the first part. That's the foundation. Next, the heart needs to be activated. What do you love? What's the relationship that you'd love to have? What's your vision? How much do you care? How great is your desire to not just be in an okay relationship, good relationship, but to really create a loving and connected relationship in this lifetime that kind of radiates this energy and this, you know, this great work that you're going to do into your family, your community, and into the world. And finally, you need spine. And this can often be the hardest part once a man has opened his mind and his heart, because then he has a lot of empathy when the heart is open. And it may be difficult at this point to bring in a little bit more of that dominance and that force, but this is actually very essential. And a lot of men are not connected to their spine and their natural instincts now, because we live in such a mental world, right? We're on our computers, we're working mentally most of the time. And for most men, particularly the men that I work with, which are business leaders, they're using their mind a lot. The spine needs to come online. And this is how she feels attracted to you. This is where she feels your male hormones. So how do we do this, right? This is sort of just a concept. So I want to give you a tool that I teach my clients, one of the key tools that I don't really talk about in my content, and this is masculine communication. This is something you can use today, activate today with your wife, with women, with men even, because as a masculine man, you use this everywhere, okay? You always use masculine communication. So what is this? When you speak to your wife, you're always giving directives, right? And then you're also giving correctives. So this means you're directing her, you're telling her what to do, and you're also correcting her when she's being disrespectful, when she's doing something, you know, that is not safe for her, that's not good for her, or that's not really functional. You're there as her leader, her father, her coach. That's your role. Okay, so you have this obligation to correct her. And finally, you're always asking her leading questions, and you're leading her into her feelings, right? Because this is how a woman releases stress, not through her mind, not through logic, not through figuring it out, but through sharing her feelings. So if you want a happy wife and a happy life, you must get your woman into her feelings, sharing her feelings and expressing herself, okay? And in order to do this, these things are simple, but actually implementing them takes a lot of courage. The things that you mustn't do, what isn't masculine communication, is feminine communication, okay? Or sharing your feelings. These are both feminine communication. So this may sound strange and it may sound the opposite of the narrative now, but as a man, you must be sharing your judgments. You must be creating a firm container, because your feelings and your emotions, or your fears, they are going to create a signal in her that you don't have strength and you don't have safety. Okay. An example of feminine communication, which is sort of the norm in our society, is saying please. A man doesn't need to say please. And you'll notice when you say please, there's a level of tension that builds up in you. So you're trying to be polite or you're trying to do the right thing, but actually your nervous system is sending a signal of frustration, anger, and this is actually felt by women. So I want you to try this. You're not going to really believe it until you try it, how easy for you as a man it is to communicate and get your needs met and to solve problems when you're using masculine communication. So I wanted to make this presentation as short, as simple as possible, to leave time for questions or any coaching, but I do have resources where I speak more deeply about these themes. This is my free intimacy guide. You can download it. It will tell you the exact steps to get intimacy and attraction back, and also my relationship masterclass for men, which talks about how I help my clients, the steps, and all these things on a deeper level. So if you're interested, or if you have a man that may need a little bit of this information, it's something that you can pass on. So that's the end of the presentation. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or feedback, or want any coaching, happy to do
Sasha,
that.
thank you. I put Sasha's Instagram link in there. And Sasha, if you get me all the other links as actual links, I'll put them in our WhatsApp channel. We'll get over 100 guys in there. Not all could be here now. There's so many things here. I took a lot of notes. I want to share that after I had you on my podcast, you told me about how women, they might be with this bad boy. They might be with a guy who's trouble, but that guy makes her feel stressed and worried, but then passionately in love. And they go on this roller coaster and they love that. They feel their feelings are happening and they want to feel all feelings, which for guys, I just want to be in the middle all the time. I want to be under control. So you told me in that podcast, it was months ago, but something about, in a conversation, get into her feelings. So I didn't get to practice it with my wife that day, but my cousin's wife came over. She comes over to use the sauna every once in a while, and sometimes I join her. And so we're talking, and she was telling me a story, and we talk all the time. And I said, "Oh my gosh, how did you feel when that happened?" And I saw her change, and I got that directly from you. So now I've been using that with my wife as well. So I just want to share that was a great takeaway that I've been practicing a lot. I got questions, but I don't want to hog it. Guys, what did you think? What came up? Drew, you got a question?
Sure. I'd love to hear some more examples on creating the roller coaster. I'm very familiar with experiencing her roller coaster.
Yeah, same question. That's a good one.
I'd like to hear more about that, and also some more examples of what feminine communication sounds like beyond saying please. It sounds like that's a good thing to not to fall into.
I had a feeling this bad boy theme and the emotional roller coaster stuff was going to come up. So as men have become higher functioning, right, more reasonable, less brutal, more mental, right, sort of getting into these high levels of understanding, what they've disconnected from is their masculine instinct. This is what I talked about as the spine. Your masculine instinct is below your waist, right? This is actually where you need to lead from this place, whereas most men, particularly in their very mental high functioning roles, they will be here. And this is where they go to escape from their fears. So it takes a lot of courage to be in your masculine instincts, and there is a danger to it, right? And this is why you will avoid it, and you will avoid your wife's emotional wave or her emotional roller coaster, because a lot of the men who really are in their masculine, those instincts purely, as Joel said, the bad boy, they end up in jail, right? Or they sort of do something purely based on instincts. It hasn't got time to go through their heart and into their mind. However, a lot of men in jail aren't struggling with relationships. There are women sending them letters. They don't struggle with them to get, they struggle to keep them, but not to get women. And an example of this is fighters will always have that, because they're using, especially kickboxers, they use their lower body. This is active. So this isn't just a mental thing. This is a physical energy we're activating through the nervous system. Okay, so I want you to stop. No, because this will activate that energy, and it's the energy that you're using when you're having sex. right? And it's going to intensify the sexual experience if you're leading from this energy, right? So just feel into this space as I'm talking to you. You can place your hand on your belly. Just really feel into that space versus listening to this through your head. And this is where you're going to start to create the emotional roller coaster. So when a woman starts to get emotional, it's likely you will avoid it. You'll try and solve it logically. You think that she needs her problem solved. You think you're talking to a man, right? You're not. You're not talking to a man. You can't take any of her content literally, right? You want to feel into what she's feeling. And you can only do this from the lower part of your body. And what you're going to do once she starts complaining, once she starts sharing, she may be judging you, and that's what's going to feel uncomfortable. This will hit your center and will feel like disrespect. It will make you want to close up, to push back, or to disappear. What you're going to do is you're going to stand there and you're going to tell her, you're going to correct her. So this is using masculine communication, and you're going to tell her, don't disrespect me. Don't speak to me like that, right? This might take a bit of courage. And she's going to feel, oh, there's going to be a bit of electricity, right? It's that masculine instinct. It's that discipline. Don't judge me. You're creating a firm container now to hold her emotions. And then you're going to direct her. You're giving her directions. Tell me what you're feeling. I can see that you're feeling upset, you're angry, you're tense. What are you feeling? So feelings aren't what she's thinking, it's what she's feeling. Angry, sad, anxious, joyful. There's about 5 feelings that she can use.
Sasha, just
Really.
giving her that space, that opportunity to that, wow, you asked for that, and she gets to express it to you. Does that hold us in a good position? Does she look at us in a good light?
Yeah, so it just allows her to go through her natural body's process. So imagine yourself, you're the man, you're the container, you're the box, right? You're logical, you're straight lines. You're creating a box for her to release all of her feminine energy. And actually, what you'll find when she releases in this way, when she doesn't judge you or blame or use masculine communication, which is judgments, even when she's sharing negative feelings, you'll feel more connected to her, you'll feel closer to her. And she will start being open because she's released all those feelings, more open to you emotionally and physically. So does that make sense? How does that resonate? So
Makes
this
total
is a
sense.
bit of a process. This is a process,
Yeah.
right? Because we've been
Yeah.
conditioned. As a man, you know this, all this
Well,
stuff instinctively. It's just the layers of the mind and conditioning
well,
that sort of make it a little bit confusing.
yeah, I feel like I came into our relationship very much bringing the roller coaster. And then through 20 years of domestication, I became much more polite and yeah. And I said something to her the other day that I think kind of shocked her, that I think was bringing a little bit of the roller coaster. And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "How did you just feel when I said that?" And she's like, "Nervous." I was like, "Where at?" She's like, "In my stomach." And I was like, "Okay," and just moved on with my day. I didn't try to explain why, I was in that space, and it was really remarkable, like just that shift. But that didn't at all happen for me
Sasha,
until I started
it,
releasing some of the stress. Like I
real quick,
couldn't
if you were
even see
coaching
that. Yeah.
Drew and Drew told you a situation like that, and you're not coaching the wife, you would only be coaching Drew. How do you do that coaching session? How would you talk to him? Would you ask him to give you the conversation, what happened, suggest different things to try next time? How do you do that?
So my structure, it is a masculine structure because it's designed for logical men, where I give you content, right? So you understand the concepts. And we do processes where I'm sort of like a detective of the situation with your wife, because the man usually doesn't know what's going on in the relationship because your nervous system is designed to push it down, right? So you won't know what's wrong. So men are great at solving problems, but often you don't sit in the emotional pain enough to really know what's going on. So my role is to be a detective, to feel and to understand what the woman is feeling towards you. And actually, whatever happens in your life, and if it only happens once, it happens once. If it's happening twice, it's happening everywhere. So we will come up in our container, right? The way you speak to me, the feelings that I have, that is what your wife is feeling. So it's a bit of a detective process. And this is why often couples therapy doesn't work when the two are together, particularly, because it's one story against another, right? It's all logic. And most people have a sabotaging aspect of themselves, which is getting in the way of the relationship, and it's running the show. And I can't buy into your story because we need to get to the bottom of what's going on. And then it's up to you to be onto that sabotaging aspect of yourself and use masculine communication and these tools to, lead yourself and lead her. Right. So the woman's involvement is not necessary because you're her coach. Her energy follows you on a biological nervous system level, right? It's hormonal. As you transform, she transformed. She is your mirror. She's your 2IC. She's giving you information that you can't feel, right? This is why we come together so perfectly, but only when we understand what we're really here to do, and also how to unravel all of the stuff, the stress, the trauma, the conditioning, all the stuff that's actually getting in the way of emotional and physical intimacy.
So the beauty of this is that if you're in a bad relationship and you feel hopeless, there's a lot of power in what you said, that we have this power to make some changes. And a lot of the times people will follow, right? I've seen this. We've had over almost 800 guys do the 31-day challenge. And so many start by saying that they have issues with their wife and their kids. And then halfway through, they start saying, I'm starting to see some changes in them. Guess what? They're not doing the program. They didn't change. You're showing up differently. You're doing push-ups. You're focusing on yourself, improving. So that, I hope that gives someone hope out there that, man, I don't have a great relationship, but I have the power to make that change. Mike Tucker, you would raise.
Absolutely. And it's kind of backing up what you just said, Joe. All this talk about, women loving the bad boy and, they create that emotional roller coaster. Not a perfect guy, but I think I've got that nailed. I am the emotional roller coaster. Here's how. And it's, what if we bought a motorcycle spontaneously and said, hey, I'm getting this for a relationship. We're going to go for a ride. Not the $50,000 one that puts us in the hole, but the $2,500 one that provides that emotional experience. What if we had a 2-day spontaneous vacation? That's part of the emotional roller coaster that you're talking about, right? What about a date that's not just go to the movies and go home, but like the 3 or 4 hot spots in an evening? Do you think that would provide that emotional roller coaster that would fill that need? I kind of see that over here in my home. Just
Yeah,
taking
so
the
it's
leading
doing
role.
Yeah, it's leading her outside of her boundaries. And I just want to say on that, the bad boy, those relationships don't last. So women who end up with men like that, it's chaos, it's terrible. It's those three together, right? But when you're working with logical, intelligent men who have their life sorted, this is usually the missing element. It is those things, it is those events, it is creating those scenarios, but actually what it is, it's hormones, it's electrical energy. So when you're feeling excited in your life, when you're feeling confident, when you're willing to take risk, when you're not giving into your fears, she can feel that. Your energy feels exciting, right? This is why we call it chemistry. She's connecting to your hotspot. So all those things are great, doing those things, but you're not always going to do that, especially if you're starting a young family, if you have kids. So just to answer that question, a lot of relationships change after kids occur. Why? Because male's hormones drops, your testosterone will drop, right? Especially if you've got a girl, there's more women. We were never designed to live like that, right? So you will create more of that roommates dynamic, because that leadership may go. So that's a really important time to help your wife to release stress, right? And simply by giving her directives and correctives, that can create an emotional roller coaster because you're pulling her up. You're giving her that sort of the little bit of that trigger that will lead to resolving some of her inner wounding. That is their emotional roller coaster. She just has to feel. So I'll tell you something really strange that often men don't understand straight away, but women don't care about money. They don't care about stuff. They don't care about problems. They don't care about situations. This is a world men have created to try and please women, but it's not actually the things. They care about the emotion that that's going to bring, the emotional experience. So once a woman is with a man who is a provider, he has safety, she's gotten what she needs on a safety level, that's when that emotional energy is most needed, right? Otherwise, the relationship can go really downhill, addiction, different things, and it's not that problematic. It's just that there isn't that emotional connection anymore because the man thinks he's done what he's needed. So we're going through a disruption phase in relationships where we have the foundation, we've got the safety, now we need the emotional connection.
Lauren, did you have a question?
Yeah, and Sasha, thank you for your time. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. I've done a lot of work here recently, and you spoke a little bit on this stuff, but not directly. Hormones is one. I for years like struggled to understand why a joke would land one week and the next week it would have her in tears until I started tracking her cycle. And that's been the most transformative thing I've ever done for my relationship. The second was understanding attachment theory, which I think you kind of get to the heart of there. But the hardest part of that for me was admitting that I was anxious, preoccupied, which is kind of a tough pill to swallow for a man. But once I did, I started working on that and showing up more masculine, and that's been really great. I guess my question for you is more about the guys in your group. What are the pitfalls you see a lot of guys fall into who don't see the success that you expect them to? And what is indicative of kind of the guys that you know are going to see success in their relationships, having coached so many men? What are the things that we should look out for? Yeah, what works?
Yeah, so I work with men individually. If they come to the sessions, they follow the process, it works, right? It sounds like, oh wow, how can it work? This is such a big theme, but it works. What doesn't work is when they go back into avoidance, when they don't have the courage to do the next step. And there are a few levels. Some men just don't want to be divorced and they want things to feel good and a little bit of intimacy and affection, right? They don't want that negative attention, and that's where they stop. That's fine, right? That's one place where you want to be. But actually, you can have the relationship of your dreams with your wife, even if you're on the brink of divorce. And it's just how far you want to go. It's how much courage you have, right? So the first level is just overcoming your fear. The next level is learning these relationship skills and going into them. And then the final level, and I'm going to talk about it here, but it's sort of the end result where you can actually go, is it's actually we have these natural inbuilt systems. We don't know how to use them, and they're quite dangerous without the knowledge, right? And this is actually dominance, right? And dominant sex, right? This is actually the where your relationship goes to the next level. So everything we're being told about society, the honeymoon phase, there's just a little bit, and then you need different partners, you need pornography, all of these things are actually keeping us distracted from what we can actually create within our own physical energy system, and particularly when we put these points together, right? It's like the phone and the charger. And this is where you can really go. So not if it's going to fail. If you follow these steps, if you step into your courage, you're doing the work, it's going to work. It's just how far you want to go, how magnetic, how polarized, how juicy, how exciting do you want your relationship to be? That's really the question. Not,
Sasha,
how, yeah.
there is a danger in someone understanding this incorrectly and thinking, well, I've got to be this macho guy who goes into the abusive side of it, right? That's not what this is.
No, and I'm sharing this with this group. Obviously, this is quite a conscious group and this is a safe group. So it's not really something I'd share publicly, but the first level is safety. Women need to be safe. Without safety, you're not going anywhere, right? So she needs to actually come towards you. It's a process, right? It's a process. So before you get to that level where you're having that connection, you got to pass the first levels, which is first overcoming your fear, stress, right? The chaos in your nervous system, leading from your heart. You're connected to your heart. Then you go through your mind, And then that's when you can have that connection. This is instinctual to you. But if you just go there by itself, well, it's going to create chaos, right? This is a lot of like ancient teachings that have been hidden from us for years or from the mass because they can empower people or they can create danger. It's like medicine. It's a drug that can kill you or it can heal you. This is the same with your relationship, right? It's either slowly killing you. You're in a sort of a relationship with not much connection. It's slowly killing you. It's diminishing your life. It's negatively affecting your children, even if there are plates being thrown. It's toxic, even if it's quiet. Or this can be a tool for healing, creating impact, abundance, love, connection, healing generations backwards and forwards. It depends how deep you want to go, right? And this is just the first level. This is a little bit of understanding about some tools, the techniques, but the techniques don't work. This is why a lot of men who work with me, they've done therapy, they've done male coaching. You can't get this coaching from a man because they're only going to tell you the top level, the surface. It's the tools, techniques. It's not the energy behind it, which is actually what brings it to life, right? The
Sasha,
feel.
Andreu has a question, but real quick, I know you're going to give me some links, but how do they engage to hire you? Is there a pre-call they can do to see if there's a fit? How do you do that?
Yeah, so just read the intimacy guide, watch the content first, then you can book a introductory call to me. It's a session where it's not a therapy session. You're going to get your answers in that session because although I'm talking about general themes, your situation is different. And at the end of the session, you'll understand what your problem is and what the pathway is to the solution. And then from there, if you want to take that
Great.
journey, you
So I'll
can.
share
If
that
not,
link when you give it to me. Andreu, last question.
Hey, Sasha, how are you? Thank you very much for your time. Listen, a quick question. So which small signs we should be looking just to be careful that the marriage doesn't turn south in the next 5-6 years? You know, something that we cannot see right now because obviously we are together all the time and, you know, there's good days, bad days. But what are those signs that says, hey, careful with this? You know, because I mean, everyone fights and everyone has disagreements, and that's, I guess, it's normal and even healthy. But what are those that say, hey, this is not good? You should be careful because it starts trending on a bad direction.
yeah, good question. And conflict is healthy. So one sign is you don't have conflict.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine. Things are good, right? Because you're two different entities coming together. There should be friction and conflict.
Mhm.
Okay. The next sign, she's always upset. That's actually just a little warning sign. She still cares. She's making issues. The real sign where things are really dangerous is she's detached, she's checked out, right? So a woman actually tries in some way for many, many years before she disconnects because it's a big risk for a woman to leave you, right? Big risk. So she's going to leave you when it's really, she's given up. And that's
Yeah.
usually when she goes quiet. So you don't want her to go quiet. You always want to be checking. What are her emotions? It's like you employees. You always want to have check-ins. How's it going? What's happening? What's the motivations? But with your wife, it's every day. You're asking her one question a night about herself to share her feelings. How are you feeling? Gauge the vibe. Gauge the vibe. If you gauge the vibe, so one question a day keeps the divorce lawyer away. Do that one thing and you get her feelings and you create that structure, you're good. The rest is just how deep and how high you want to go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Andreu, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that if we asking how you feeling, we also risk be talking for the next 3 hours. So sometimes it's just better why we don't ask. Yeah.
But that's where the firmness comes in, right?
Yeah.
Then you need to know when to close. You're as a man, you have a great power. You can direct and correct. Okay, and so how you want to close it, right, is not in a mental way. When you're sort of done, okay, she's talked for half an hour, even 15 minutes. You look at her, make eye contact. You kind of look her up and down as if you're attracted to her, you're checking her out. So you're approving of her sharing. And you kind of shift her energy, right? She's a little bit giddy. You might give her a little kiss, a tap on the butt, and then say, I'm going to go do this. Go. And you direct her to go do something. Give her an instruction, right? As opposed to shutting off.
Yeah.
Everything, you're not avoiding the situation, you're going forward. That's your power as a man. Right.
Excellent, Sasha. And someone, you answered the question. Someone just asked in the chat if she's gone quiet and detached. Is it too late? I mean, those are some of the signs that it's getting
Never
to that,
too
right?
late.
Never too
It
late.
depends.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're married and you have children, there's such strong energy between you two, the sunstruck energetic cords, it's not too late. It's almost better at that point when you're separated, so there can be a bit of space between the old identities. So I help men when they're on the brink of divorce or after divorce. So anything before that, it's doable and it can happen really quickly.
All right, so you're going to send me your link so you can look up online right now if you want to find Sasha Fedorovsky Mind Heart Method on Instagram, and we'll get that to everybody in that form that you could fill out if you're interested in learning more and having a chat with her. Today, I went to a sales workshop for entrepreneurs, and the biggest takeaway that I got from that is that to sell and be extremely effective, you have to use feelings. You have to get to the person's feelings. And this is in business. This is B2B sales. When you get feelings involved, you're going to sell a lot more. So this has really rounded out my day. Thank you for making me realize it's not just in business. It's not just at home, but people don't do this. Men don't do it. And Sasha's teaching us to do this. I think this stuff works. Sasha, thank you very much. You are bringing great value to men in the world. And in return, you're bringing value to women too, because if these men show up better, if we do a better job, then our women are going to be happier. Thanks for being here and for what you do.
Thank you so much. This was great fun.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.